Welcome to the Morningstar Podcast, a space for real conversations and shared experiences. Together, we'll explore the ideas and stories that inspire, guide, and connect us all. Let's get started. The Morningstar Podcast discusses topics related to recovery, addiction, and mental health, which may be sensitive for some listeners. We are not medical professionals, and this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or treatment. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the Morningstar Podcast. This is episode 4. My name is Jared, and I'm joined by my co-host Des, and we're very excited about today's episode. We have Chelsea and Caroline. They are the supervisor and assistant supervisor for Healing Hearts Lodge. Healing Hearts, as you're going to find out more about it today, but like an overview, I guess it's a sober living for women with their children. They do very important work. Des is actually one of the many success stories from Healing Hearts, and she went through the program, transitioned out, and now she's a very important member of our team, and we're happy to have her. So I think Des is really going to help add something unique to this conversation. So with that, can you guys tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into the positions that you have now?
Yeah, cool. I'm happy to be here. My name is Chelsea Luger. I am from Standing Rock. I think it's a really quick kind of a funny story how I got to Healing Hearts, or how I got to be the supervisor there. I started as a recovery coach at Good Road, and that was in March of 2021. I started as a recovery coach there, and I loved that job. I really loved working there. I really kind of grew a lot there. And I worked as a recovery coach for about 9 months, I think, and then I got promoted to a case manager. And I remember coming into the cafeteria at Good Road, and I remember sitting down. There was some people sitting there that were working in sober living at the time, still do. There was Justin Big Man, Justin Marcette, Jarrett Baker. They were all sitting there, and they were having a conversation. And I just sat down, and I remember they were like, I sat down and I started eating, and they all looked at me, and I don't know what they were talking about, but they were talking about Healing Hearts. And at the time, Healing Hearts they had an acting supervisor, but they didn't have, they were basically like trying to throw out ideas of like who could, come over there and help Healing Hearts, help the program. And that's why they looked at me. They were like, was that something you'd want to do? And initially I was like, I can't do that. That sounds scary. That sounds like a lot of responsibility. And I was taken aback. I was a little surprised, and I was, I was honestly kind of scared. And I really didn't think that was something that I could do in that moment. And some of the things that were listed for that position were just some things that I didn't think that I could live up to. I know that there was like a degree that was listed that was preferred that I don't have. And it just looked like a really big job. And I was just unsure of myself at the time. But I applied for the job, and I got the job. I got hired as a permanent employee there in August of 2022, and I've been there ever since. And that's how I started there, and it's really been an adventure. I remember when I talked to some of my mentors about going into this position, something that I was told was to obviously pray about it. It's not, something that I do in my daily life is to, when I'm going to make a big decision, I pray about it, and I don't just jump at it. I don't make big decisions based on emotion. If I did that, I wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. I would probably still be at Good Road. I would never have been able to see the things that I've seen. I wouldn't have been able to witness the miracles. I don't know where I would be, but that's kind of how I got into that position. And I'm really, really glad that I took that leap of faith and been able to sit here with you guys today.
Hi, my name is Caroline Sorenson. I am the assistant supervisor for the Healing Hearts Lodge. I think it's like the couple of months leading up to me getting the job over there. Super cool. I started as a recovery coach at Good Road as well. I was kind of looking into moving forward from that position. I applied, and then I withdrew an application for another position at Good Road, and I was just like, okay, like if something comes, I'll take a chance. And then I was at home, and I just had this thought. I was just watching TV, and I just had this random thought, like I just was like, it would be cool to be around the women in sober living more. And I was like, weird, and I just prayed, that if there was ever an opportunity, like just show me.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of weeks later, I was sitting in my office at Good Road, and I got a snap of the job description at Healing Hearts. She was like, you should apply for this. And I was like, wow, like kind of like, oh my God. So I applied for it, and me too, didn't think that it was something that I could do, and was like kind of back and forth with it. I didn't tell my sponsor or my mentor about it. Somebody else told her. And I just waited. And then when Chelsea did find out that I applied, we just had conversations, and then I was like bugging her. And anyway, so I ended up getting the job. I got to interview with Chelsea, Justin, Big Man, and Tiffany, who are all mentors in my recovery and in my life. And so that was super cool. And then, so I started in June of 2024, and it has been such a good time. I'm super grateful to be there and just be learning and get to work with Chelsea. And I'll probably cry. So I'm not gonna go into that. I'm just really grateful.
Edit those tears out. Yeah.
I'll just say that when she says she was bugging me, that's an understatement.
For sure.
So what was it like for you, Des, when you were before you got there, and then once you got there? Like, what did you what do you remember from that time?
Well, me and Caroline, we were actually in sober living. The first women's sober living was called Inani, and it was out in Lincoln. And me and Caroline, I was actually scared of Caroline. When I first came to the house, I was like, well, who's all going to be there?
Yeah.
Like, these women don't like me, and I'm scared. You know what I mean? Like, these are the thoughts that I had, early in recovery, fresh out of treatment. And I'm like, I got the okay to go to sober living, and I was like, you know what? It's life or death for me. Like, I got to go into this place, man, and handle some business. You know what I mean? Like, if this is what's going to help save me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is what's going to help save my life and make me a better person. So, I took those thoughts, and I showed up at this house, and there was a few women, you know what I mean, from my addiction days, and I was like, oh my God. And but it was cool, you know what I mean? Like, we all came in on a different level, and got that experience to help bring each other up. You know what I mean? Like, that's the most beautiful thing that I've experienced coming into sober living was you know what I mean? Willing to put these things behind me and start fresh and learn and grow together and in recovery. You know what I mean? So, we stayed there for a couple months, and then Healing Hearts opened up, and everybody, they were transferring us all out to Healing Hearts. And I was like, oh my God, a brand new facility, beautiful, kitchen, you got two bedrooms and your own bathroom, and what a blessing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What a blessing, a fresh start, a fresh building, and great experience. Secure environment, is a locked facility, and I felt super safe to learn and grow in this facility. You know what I mean? And and then more women start coming in. Then the kids started showing up, and it was beautiful. You know what I mean? And nobody pushed anybody to do anything. You know what I mean? Like when you were ready and you mentioned it to a care coordinator or the women there, hey, I think I'm gonna start, trying to work on getting my kids back, or you know what I mean? I'm gonna start doing a job. But these women that you were surrounded by helped you achieve that also. So it was an awesome experience. I spent 2 years sober living actually, and Chelsea did come in. I think Chelsea was perfect for that position because she's someone that you can gravitate towards. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Feel safe with whatever you have to say, and she's super understanding, all this stuff. So it worked perfectly. And so and all the staff there, I had my own care coordinator. She helped me whatever goal I wanted to achieve. She handled it and helped guide me to get those done. And I was able to work on that relationship with my kids, you know what I mean? And I expressed myself to these women around me that like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, what if my kids don't remember me? You know what I mean? Like, my youngest don't know anything about me. You know, I finally gained that trust with my family back. My mom, you know, I remember that time, like, she was finally going to let me take my kids back to Healing Hearts for the weekend. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. But like, I got to bring my kids back, you know what I mean? And then like expressing that like to the women that like, oh my God, this is my first time having my kids. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna handle it, but like everybody is auntie, you know what I mean? Like all the women there. And then like even still to this day, like my youngest is like, I miss my friends, you know what I mean? So like it grows on like the kids mostly, you know what I mean? Because these kids that grow up together like have that bond also, not just the women that do that, but like the kids too. So it's a beautiful experience, man. Awesome facility. I will always be forever grateful. So
Yeah, and so she talked about like having the care coordinators and you guys have peer support. I guess what do they all offer for people who are clients there or who are in Healing Hearts?
So we have one peer support person there. She kind of does, because we just have her, the one, she does a lot. She's kind of all over the place. She's amazing. She does a lot of, she helps with transportation. She helps with, right now, so like when we have 2 women that come in, or if we have somebody who's already in an apartment, because we have 2 bedroom apartments, so we usually have 2 women in one apartment. If we have one that's already in there and we have a new one coming in, she'll do what's called a roommate orientation. They'll go through, they have like a little checklist of like things they're going to talk about so they can get to know each other. Like, well, who's going to do what on what days? Like how are they going to like live together? Right. Because sometimes we run into issues, right? When you have 2 women coming to live together and they're new in recovery and they're, you know, we get crazy. So she does those. She does all the inspections, the unit inspections. We do those like 3 times a month. 2 of them are random. They just to keep things clean, you know, like you get, they're basically homes, you know, you're in an apartment building. They're like little apartments. They're like little homes, you know, you get comfortable and things just, you know, you really set in your roots. It's a long-term place. You know, we ask for a 9-month commitment there. We ask for ladies to stay at least 9 months. And the reason we ask for that is because, you know, we're out there living a certain way for years, you know, decades. Sometimes it's going to take longer than 2 or 3 months, you know, to find a different way to live. So we ask for at least 9-month commitment. So whenever you're in this apartment, you're really setting your roots, you know, so we have to just do these inspections to make sure they get clean. Anyways, she takes care of that. Some of the situations that come up where there's like conflict, she does some conflict resolution things. The care coordinators, there's 4 of them. They really kind of operate as case managers. I know we have like care coordination. You guys do care coordination, POCs. They're like case managers. So they do the interviews with the ladies. So they're kind of with them from the beginning all the way through to discharge. They will, so they'll do the interview. They'll bring it to the team if, you know, they'll bring all the details, where they're at, when they plan on discharging, if they're in treatment, or if they're coming from like home or from the community. They'll get all those details. They'll tell us if they're planning on bringing kids. They'll tell us if they're when they last time, you know, how long they've been sober. They'll give us all those details, and then they'll, if we accept them, they'll do their intake. They'll spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours with them, doing an intake. They'll go through the whole guest agreement with them. They'll show them to their apartment. They'll introduce them to their roommate. They'll introduce them to all the staff. They'll tour the building. Then they'll kind of start that. They'll let them get settled. You know, then they really start to establish that rapport right away because they've done their interview. They're kind of like that first voice next to the intake person, the intake coordinator who does sets up those interviews and assigns them that care coordinator. Next to her, the care coordinator is kind of like that voice, that first person that they kind of get to know. And so they have that relationship with them through the whole thing. Yeah. They step in for each other because obviously things happen. People go on leave, you know, so they, you know, help each other out. But they do a lot of case management stuff. They help them develop goals. They, 2 months, I think it's 2 months in, they have a checklist that they follow. So like 2 months in, I think it is, they'll ask them about discharge planning. That doesn't mean we're like pushing for it. We just want to get a head start on it. Everybody gets put like on a budget when they get there. As soon as they get there, you're taught how to do a budget.
I've heard about Chelsea's budget.
Those are Chelsea's budgets, by the way.
That's what I've heard.
Something really cool that I left out in the beginning while we're on this thought, because my thoughts like go in and out of here really fast. When I was sitting at that table with those guys, when they like all looked at me like that, when I was, because I'm in recovery too, 3 years before that, I was in a treatment center in Partial, and there's this lady. When I was leaving, the day that I was graduating from that treatment center, she told me about 3 or 4 years down the road, right? The relatives, the spirits are they're gonna tap on your shoulder, and they're gonna have a big job for you to do. And that was, so when we had that conversation with those guys in the cafeteria, this was like right after my 3rd sobriety birthday. And it was like, this was like that big job, right? And something else that my current supervisor now told me, Dr. Freilich, was that they wanted my Hope Manor experience. I lived in Hope Manor for a year. Something Des said was like, she'll forever be grateful to Healing Hearts. Hope Manor has that. That's what I have for Hope Manor. Like it continues to be one of the best experiences of my life. But that's where that budget comes from. So it's not Chelsea's budget. I'm not going to take credit for that. But anyways, so back to that part. Everybody gets put on that. And right at that 2 months, they start talking about the discharge, just seeing where they're at. Like where's your goal? You know, where do you hope to be? Do you hope to stay here in Bismarck? Do you hope to get back to your home community? Just to see where they're at. And if they don't know, cool, that's all right. You know, we can revisit that later. They do like weekly check-ins with them. After a certain time, it goes to monthly check-ins. So they do a lot. Care coordinators do a lot of work with them.
So you guys, like the type of goals, so everybody comes in on different levels. You know what I mean? Everybody kind of comes in, some deal with CPS, some have federal charges, and the care coordinators help with that, or?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. That is legal issues. That's also on that. I wish I had that checklist. We have the care coordinators have a checklist that they follow from like, they have like the admission date, and then it has like the discharge planning, whether it's planned or unplanned. They have all these things that they go through. It's all organized so that that's not only good for me, it's good for everybody. I think, or I don't know. I like lists. I'm a weirdo and a nerd like that. So
organized.
It helps. But that's one of those things, the court issues, if someone's on an EDO, or if they have legal issues, sometimes people have warrants that they need to take care of. Sometimes those are out of state. You know, we've driven people to out of state places to take care of warrants, custody issues, CPS things, all that stuff. They help them see those through.
Right. So was it hard to build those relationships with CPS and with the courts and with probation, or were they super trusting to start, or was that something that's kind of came with it?
I think it hasn't been difficult. I don't want to say that it's been difficult or it's been hard to build those relationships. We have a good relationship with the federal probation officers, with the federal court system, I think with the state court system too. We have good relationships. We have pretty good relationships with everybody all around. Something that we've run into, I guess, is, not seeing Healing Hearts as like a permanent place, which it isn't, so that's the only thing that I can say is that's the only kind of issue that we've like run into, but it's not too bad. We've been able to work around it. We've been able to get through that, or the women have been able to get through that, because that's who's going through it. That's who's facing that challenge and overcoming it.
Anytime I'd get out of treatment or out of jail and I'd get my kids back, like I always felt alone, like, and I didn't really know how to be a parent anyway. Like everything I knew about being a parent had came from like what I've seen my grandparents do or my parents do, and it wasn't necessarily what I always wanted to do. And it's hard to find like a group of people that are going through that. So to be in that environment constantly where you're saying everyone's anti, and everyone wants to help, and I always see pictures and stuff, and they're all, it's such a beautiful thing, and I think it kind of expedites the learning process too, because it's not permanent, but like you're gonna learn what you need for when you are permanent somewhere, and they are with you. So
and just to kind of piggyback off of that too, like with the kids. What's really cool, like Des talked about it a little bit too, that building that community with the kids too. And it's almost, you can almost say it's like prevention work, like with the kids, because moms are here getting well, and the kids are also healing, getting well. We recently had a meeting with a local elementary school that has 14 of our students in their elementary school, and they told us that when they had somebody new start, a new student start that was living at Healing Hearts, and the other students that live at Healing Hearts were like, "We'll meet you at your class, and we'll walk you to your next class." And they have like this, they have their own little community, and it's so cool that they've like built that, like they're like little brothers and sisters, that live there. And that's not the first time I've heard that, and from people that work in the schools. I've heard that also from social workers. I heard that I think that first or second year that I was there, about it was at a early Head Start, I think, or a Head Start school, from a social worker, that the kids are kind of like their own little lodge buddies. It's definitely something to see, and I don't know if you really like get the full picture unless you're like in it, or maybe like you said, you see the pictures like on the Facebook page maybe, and you can see the things they do together. And there's really like a really cool spirit of like fellowship that lives in that building.
And like the full picture, I think, is probably even farther than we can see, because this is down the line, like future generations, like the things these kids are learning now and seeing, and whether it might not even be them struggling, it might be their kids struggling someday, but this experience like is going to help them. It's kind of that ripple effect that it can have on the whole family. Like I'm always for, and even in school, like learning about family systems therapy and how important it is for the family to kind of heal together and grow together. And because there's going to be conflict, there's going to be this like Des was saying when she was going to get her kids for the first weekend, all those fears. And I know for me personally, like I overcompensate. So especially early on, it was like they asked me for something and we were on our way to Walmart. And then I'd ask them to do some chores and they were shutting the door in my face.
And you were doing the chores.
And I was doing the chores, So like I know, I think that's amazing. What about you, Caroline? What do you enjoy most about the job?
I think it's the babies. It's like definitely one of my top favorites is there's so many babies and everybody's just like, all the ladies, like they're one big family and they're all just helping each other out. Even the staff, right? They're helping the ladies out when they're trying to go to meetings and they need help with their baby. I really enjoy being a part of such a powerful group of women. Like everybody has their duties and they just do their jobs, and they just like lift each other up. And I'm just really grateful. I'm really grateful to be a part of that team. And I learned so much from all of them.
Caroline, can you kind of explain about, so like if when you're first coming into Healing Hearts, can you tell us about like the requirements to stay in sober living, like what you have to complete in a week, or like just these simple requirements that are asked of you?
You have to be sober. And then we have we have phases 1, 2, and 3. And for the first phase 1, you have to get a sponsor in a 12-step program, find a home group in that program and have a commitment, get a job. Then you can request after a couple of weeks of being there to level phase up.
What changes once you get to level 2, you can be on for 4 hours at a time. That's really the only thing that changes, while also maintaining all the things in that. So for level 1, you're on probation for the first two weeks that you're there, and you have to attain all the things that she said. When you get to level 2, you can be gone for 4 hours, because while you're on level 1, you can't go anywhere by yourself. You have to have a higher level or a staff member with you. When you get to level 2, you don't have to have anybody with you. You also get your phone back, because on level 1, you don't get to. You can have your phone for an hour a day.
It's motivation.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely is.
a big one.
That definitely causes an uproar
And
sometimes.
being able to leave.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
without supervision. Just kidding. It's not supervision. But anyways, you can be gone for 4 hours at a time. Once you get to level 3, to get to level 3, you have to have completed a 5th step. That's basically while also maintaining all the other things: the job, the home group, the commitment, and the sponsor. Meeting with your sponsor on a regular basis. Level 3 means you get to be gone all day. You could be gone from 8 o'clock in the morning to curfew, 11 o'clock at night, or 12 o'clock on the weekends. And that also means you get to go on a pass, 2 24-hour passes a month or 1 48-hour pass a month. So those are the levels in a nutshell.
It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And I know, like, for me too, like coming into sober living, like they had all these rules, you know what I mean, like the chores and the curfew and stuff like that. And like starting there, I was like, oh, these are so dumb. You know what I mean? It's so stupid. I'm not a kid. You know what I mean? But like as I kind of learned and grew, like while I was at sober living, like it's all about, for me, like I took it as like spiritual principles. You know what I mean? Like the acceptance, the love, the tolerance. You know what I mean? Having to switch everything around and kind of look at like, what are these? Why are these here? You know what I mean? And like it was kind of eye opening. Like, and then like I learned like while I was there, like watching other women, like they'd slip up, they'd like, you know, try to be sneaky and like, oh, I'm just gonna mark my chore off, or you know what I mean? But it like watching them do that and then like having it kind of like just like takes 2 steps back to get 1 forward. You know what I mean? So like, so I got to learn and grow like watching the women there too. But like not only that, but like help support in different behavior. You know what I mean? So like it was learning. It was I don't know. I think like every day I learned something new there and like experienced something new. Yeah. I just can't say enough about it, man. Sober living, like, and it gave me like a solid foundation on like how to live my life today. You know what I mean? So nobody's accountable for me today, like, and that's kind of dangerous sometimes. You know what I mean? But like, I always go back. Like, I know like where I was taught to like keep showing up. You know, on the good and the bad days. You know what I mean? Do your best. Make sure and ask somebody about certain things. You know what I mean? But I'm super grateful that I was taught those simple rules that like make a big difference.
Yeah. And there is, you know, and all the things that we do, there is, it's never because like, I told you so, you know, it's never because like, well, these are just the rules, you know, there's a reason behind everything that we do. And if anybody ever asks, like if anybody ever wanted to know, like, why do I have to do that? I would gladly explain, you know, or the staff could gladly explain, like there is a principle behind everything that's done there. There's a principle behind doing a chore, you know, it's like that gratitude is an action. And if I'm grateful for the beautiful building that I get to live in, you know, for next to nothing, then I might want to keep it clean. Right. We don't have janitors or anybody. We get to keep it clean ourselves. You know, like there's a reason behind everything we do, and it's never because I told you so. There's a principle behind it, and I love that, you know, about the program, that we can explain that to somebody so that it makes sense. You know, there's never anything that just doesn't make sense or because, well, it's in the rules, you know, like we can explain, you know, if you want.
If you want to be mad, you can.
Yeah.
I think I get asked that more than anything from people that are getting out of sober living or even treatment, you know, they're like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do when I go home. And especially the sober living people, I'm like, just keep doing exactly what you're doing. You know, like that foundation is there for that reason. Yeah. And that's the people I see have the most success. Or even if you, I know for me in my recovery, like I'll get into these phases where I don't want to do anything, or I want to just stay home and be miserable, and eventually, like I'll have to go back to what I know works. And every time I'm willing to do that, like things start to get better, you know. Right. So that foundation's important. Those like we get there too with no. I don't know about you guys, but like I didn't follow any rules. I remember some guy told me like, "You look like you never leave the house without committing a misdemeanor." And he wasn't lying. You know? He was actually right. But and so like going from that to like a productive member of society is obviously it's a shock to us, and it can make us mad and make us rebel. And I love that you said like every rule has a meaning behind it. Yeah. And I've learned that working in this field, because I was one that was in treatment or wherever I was at against my will, you know, they were telling me they'd tell me the rules, and then I'd get mad and think they were so dumb. And then now that I've been on this side, like I see exactly why that rule's there. You know, it's like a lot of times it's protecting us from ourselves and what we want to do, because what we want to do like got us there in the first place. You know?
Right.
I guess what's a day-to-day look like for you guys?
As a supervisor?
Yeah, as a supervisor.
We have a lot of laughs. We share a very small office.
We dress alike a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
It's an office thing, I think.
Oh yeah.
It really is. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
no, really though.
You could go into like Joy and Casey's office too, and they could, probably 2 out of the 5 days a week, they're probably dressed alike.
Yeah.
We didn't even plan this.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah,
we didn't.
no.
He's like, I should go home and change. I should change my sweater. I'm like, oh my god, man.
Yeah, they're kind of, it just really varies. Throughout the week we have different meetings that we have throughout the week. I mean, we have huddles twice a week with the staff there. It just depends on the day. Sometimes things get really unpredictable. You know, you have 30,
Yeah.
50, women and children living in this place. It's all about keeping it safe.
Right.
I mean, that mission, is part of that is keeping it safe and keeping it sober. That building, and that's the number one priority. It's really hard to say what a day-to-day looks like because it kind of looks different all the time. Every day, like today was pretty laid back today, which is rare. Like there are things that I have to do on my list, but I always have a list. I always have a list of things that I need to do. They just have different deadlines. I always have a list of things that I have coming up. Like I said, I keep lists, but it really helps me stay organized. Yesterday I had a supervisor meeting with all the supervisors for MHA Recovery Services. Those can be really enjoyable. They can also they can get long. There's really good information shared in those meetings though, and I look forward to hearing all the updates that people have, what the different programs are doing. I really enjoyed hearing Morgan's update yesterday. It was just to hear what you guys are doing. It's really cool. It was just refreshing. I told Caroline when we got back to the house, I almost said to the lodge, to the office. It's kind of like a home.
Yeah,
it's
it is,
home to a
right?
lot of people. But it was so. I mean, yeah, the days just look. That's a hard question to answer. You'd think it would be simple, but it's hard to answer because it just looks different every day.
And I think that's a part of working with people. It's like you never know, especially like our job. I loved what Justin said. Like my only job is to like serve others, like, and it's so easy to forget that. But that's like a prime example of why we never know like what work's gonna look like that day,
Right.
or what we have to do. And do you ever feel weird being in those meetings, like as a supervisor now compared to like just looking back over your life? You feel out of place sometimes, or like you talked about feeling a little. She pointed at her. You got a good answer for
She
it?
can talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
I am super new in this position still. And like where I come from, right? Like I feel very out of place. I've had I feel like my relationships with people are a little bit different now because of what I'm doing, or like what's expected, or I have this idea of like what's expected of me, right? And it's like, is it fancied or real? Anyway, so yeah, I'm like working on it. I talk a lot about it, try to talk a lot about it. I pray about it. We go in there and whatever happens. I'm probably turning red like 2 or 3 times. It's like in any like situation where I have to like talk about anything though, I'm like red, or nervous. But yeah, definitely still warming up to that, to sitting around that table and like trying to learn, about different things, budgets. I'm like, everything we've talked about over the last couple of months, I'm like, it's all gone already.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first start going to those meetings, there was a lot of internal like chatter going on up there. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I sitting here? There's no reason I should be sitting here. And like, I'm sitting in a room of like doctors and licensed professionals, and I'm like, I'm just a freaking, person in recovery. Like, what am I doing here? but thankfully, right, I have a program of action, and I have prayer in my life, and I can quickly redirect my thinking and focus on the truth. Like I belong here, you know, like I have a purpose here, and I am sitting here for a reason. And, you know, it's not ego. It's a healthy level of self-esteem. It's also humility, right? I know where I belong in this world. And like, I know that my purpose is to serve people, and that's why I'm sitting in this room. It's not always quick. You know, I might sit there for the full 2 hours of the meeting, and then the last 5 minutes, I'm like, oh yeah,
I belong here. Yeah.
That's why I'm, you know, walk out of there, with my head held high. But yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
That's awesome. You know, it's like we went through and it's almost like a aha, like a God moment, like being in there, because obviously we're supposed to be there. Because there's like so many of us that didn't make it, you know, and I mean, that's the easiest way to think of it. How many friends we have that are gone or aren't able to be free or whatever it is. And like, here we are sitting with these licensed professionals and doctors, and they want to know our opinion. Like, and I think our opinion is super valuable. And I love that MHA Recovery like hires people in recovery. How does your job help you or hurt you, I guess, in your recovery?
I think what's really important for me is that I have to leave work at work. You know, like my work is not my recovery. You know, and my recovery is not my work. My recovery is everything I do when I clock out.
Yep.
I don't do recovery things while I'm clocked in. I don't. My recovery happens after work. Yep. Something that I was told in the beginning when I took this job was that to not work more than 40 hours a week, which is really difficult because it's a 24/7 program.
Yeah.
It's a 24/7 job. It is part of my job, part of my duties to be available 24/7. And so I do my best to not work more than 40 hours a week. So that I don't get burnt out.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to take time off. That's the only, you know, I really have to take care of myself. But otherwise, you know, my recovery, you know, has to stay separate.
Yeah.
So
Also, so like, what's like the hardest part about being in the positions you guys are in? Like the stuff you see, the stuff you experience. And I know it's hard not to get too attached to the residents there. You know what I mean? There's got to be a border between that and like, you know, especially with the mothers that have children and came so far, you know what I mean? Like it's hard not to kind of get too emotionally involved in that. So like, can you guys tell us a little bit about that?
I've learned a lot from Chelsea. Like I continue to learn a lot from Chelsea, and that's not just in this position and her as my supervisor. It's her as my mentor and a woman in recovery and a mom in recovery. And so like a lot of things that she does, I don't want to make it about Chelsea, obviously, but I learn a lot there. So I'm always asking like advice. Something that Chelsea's really good at is being like, hey, like I have this kind of relationship. Like I think I need to step back. Or I think I need to like not have an opinion here. So I'm learning that. And I just love them. And I know it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the building, right? The safety of the kids and the women who live there and the staff. And that's what it's about. And having a second and just pausing before like deciding on something, praying and removing myself from it. My last supervisor would always tell me to remove Caroline from the situation. Like, what does it look like if you take Caroline out of the situation? So if like my feelings are out of it, right, and I can like step aside and see it for what it is, like I can better like be helpful.
yeah.
And that takes practice,
Yeah.
obviously.
For sure.
Like, do you ever get like a professional at that? You know what I mean?
It's so like you just like I'm not like we're not there to be friends with the women, you know what I mean, but it happens, like relationships happen. And like walking down that hallway or like seeing the ladies in the commons, like it's like joking and like we're all sisters. We really are. And we're all like just trying to figure out how to do this life thing and like find some peace and be moms, you know? And if we can, you know, like joke around in the meantime, like it's a good time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're ever gonna get professional. You know what I mean? Me and Chelsea,
Probably not.
definitely not.
That's got to be tough, especially when you're empaths, like in the positions that you guys are in. You know what I mean? That's got to be tough.
Yeah, it is. I think one of the hardest things I think for me are the really like difficult conversations that you have to have as a supervisor. You know, like the staff. I mean, you become friends with people. Like you can't sit in an office. You can't sit on a team of people doing this kind of work and not become friends. You just can't.
Right.
It's not possible unless you're cold, and then you're probably not in this job. You're probably not in the right field. And you can't not get attached to the women there. You're there. That's their home. That's someone you see every single day. You know, like, and they're getting direction from you. This is the person that's, you know, the structure that's there, right there. The guidance comes from, you know, from us, right? The direction comes from us. Like, you can't not get attached to them, and they can't not get attached to you. You know, like you literally watch kids grow up there. Like there are kids that are like running around that we, you know, were brought home there from the hospital. Like it's impossible to not get attached to people. What's hard, you can remove like the emotion from it, because we have to care more about somebody's life than their feelings. Right. And so it's easier to make decisions based on that. But one of the hardest things for me is the difficult conversations that you have to have with people. Like, say if somebody's relapsed, or if we, you know, and you have to make it, because it's a zero tolerance place. It's drug and alcohol free place. We can't have somebody who has drank or who has used continue to live there.
Yep.
They have to leave for 30 days. You know, and where they go, you know, that's the next step, you know, that we decide together. We talk to them, we have a conversation with them, we ask them about it, if they've even come back, right? Because sometimes they leave and they don't come back. But if they've come back and they've failed a UA and then they have admitted, okay, this is what I've done, those are difficult conversations. Those are uncomfortable for everybody. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to say you have to leave for 30 days. And nobody wants to have, you know, like it gets emotional, especially if somebody's like really wants the recovery and they're like in the grips of addiction and they don't know how to stay sober. Like they just don't know how yet. And that's what we're trying to help them learn how to do that. And, you know, they have a lot on their plate or whatever it is, whatever the reasons they say, like we know it's that they're powerless, right? We know that we know they need to be like immersed into 12-step recovery, right? We're a 12-step based program. And that's the hardest part. What's even harder is if somebody leaves and then I never see them again.
Yeah.
That's the most difficult part about the job. That's also being in recovery, you know, like Jared was saying earlier, you know, there's people who don't make it, and there are people who have lived there who have not made it. So that's would definitely be the hardest part about it.
And so one of the things that I like wanted this podcast to be able to do was to reach people who hadn't yet been like in trouble with the law yet, or maybe their family hasn't recognized yet how bad things really are internally. And we were sitting here talking about like questions we could ask, and Des came up with the question, but it was say someone was sitting there tonight and they're really going through it, and they've thought about coming to Healing Hearts. Like what would your guys' message to them be?
So they're thinking about coming to Healing Hearts. I mean, how bad does it have to get? You know, do you want to wait till it's gotten really bad? You know, do you want to wait till you've have had to go through all those consequences? Or why not take that leap of faith now? Like, what do you have to lose? You literally have everything to gain. You know, whether you haven't experienced those external consequences, there's an internal prison that you're living in. There's an internal desperation. There's an internal hopelessness. I'm sure that person is not happy. I'm sure that person is not free. there is an internal prison that you're living in, and you can get out. Like, take that leap.
That's beautiful. I'll never forget the first time I went to prison. I felt fine in there the whole time, like, because I was kind of protected from myself. Like, we still used a little bit, but it wasn't constant. And I remember we made this little pact, and we all decided, like, once we got out this time, we were going to do good. And I remember making it and meaning it, and, like, I hadn't realized yet, like, that I was powerless, I guess. And I was calling home, and I was promising my kids the world and all these things, and I felt fine. Like, I was confident about it. And they called me down one day, and they gave me my release date. And as soon as I had that date, like, immediately I was just full of fear because I knew as soon as they let me out, like, I was going to use, you know, I knew I had nothing to protect me from that. And so, like, I'll never forget that feeling because I felt freer the day I was in prison than I did when I got let out. Because then just one thing controlled me. At least in prison, I had a little bit of freedom, and I had some kind of prayer in my life. And I guess I can't, but just how you said that, you know, that prison that we are in, and we might not even recognize it yet. You know, we might not, if things haven't got bad enough that we've gotten thrown in jail, or we've gotten kicked out, or we've lost our kids, or, I mean, we know how bad it is at some point. And it'd be wonderful if I could go back and just, like, cancel out all the pain and hurt I put on other people and just get it right from the start. Like, what a difference that would make, not only for me but for them. Because now I go through all these processes with all these people in my life that, like, anyone that had any kind of love for me went through something, and it's not just a simple, I'm sober, I'm sorry, get over it. Like, that doesn't work, you know. And especially with my kids, like, they went through so much dealing with their love for me, and now looking back on it, sometimes I wonder, like, would they have been better off if I just, like, didn't talk to them at all while I was out there, instead of just going in and out and doing all the things I did, because I know how much that had to have hurt them. And I can, and it sucks, but it's, like, the truth. But when I got sober this time, I was trying to get my brother to get sober, and I got so attached to him, like, just wanting him to get it, and I finally got to experience, like, what everyone else went through all the time. And so yeah, that's just a perfect message for what it can be. You know, what would you say?
I don't know. I remember years ago, I was like 21, and I had just gotten into opiates, and I had been drinking since I was 12, but I had just gotten into opiates, and I caught a felony charge. And I worked at a bar, and I had a friend who was in recovery, and I didn't, like, recovery, like, wasn't a thing. Like, I didn't have you know what I mean? Like, I was just having fun. I didn't have a problem, you know? And I had just gotten out of jail on a felony charge of possession. And the bar, like, fired me. Anyway, she told me, she asked me if I was still using, and I told her no, right? Because I'm not going to admit that to anybody. And she said, Caroline, she was like, this is not the bottom. And to me, it was devastating. It was devastating. And she told me that this is not the bottom, and that it could fall out at any time. And I was just like, whatever, you know, whatever. And then I went through some more crazy, and I ended up in prison. And then I got out, right? And I was going to be sober forever. Finished a treatment program, was going to be sober forever. And 3 months later, I'd always graduated to something new. Anyway, if we are doing any of these substances, drinking, right, and it looks different than somebody else's. It looks different than like just being able to go into the bar and, like, go home, right? Like, I'm blacking out, I'm flopping around, I'm fighting somebody, or, like, I'm, like, having one drink and I'm waking up in my friend's bed, right? Like, or I don't know what happened, or people telling me that I was, like, crazy. it gets worse. It gets worse. It's going to get worse. Do you have to go through that? It's literally a choice. Like if you're blacking out or you're using illegal drugs, it's going to get worse. It's going to. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And all of the situations that you're going to go through to get to this point, like you're going to end up here. Hopefully. My experience is never going to be enough to keep anybody sober. You know, I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and it's never going to be enough to make them make good choices in life, right? Everybody's going to have their own experience. But the four of us sitting here, we've done the dirty work. We've done it. And it's a lot better sitting on this side.
Yeah.
For me, I had to go through the things that I had to go through. You know what I mean? I had to be physically stopped with no bond, nobody beside me to blame. You know what I mean? Like I had to be put in a federal holding cell for me to stop. If they gave me a bond, I would still be trying to find a way to get out. You know what I mean? So I had to be physically stopped on a federal hold. A bystander of a Houston homicide accident, that almost got me killed. I almost got shot. And thank God I didn't. You know what I mean? I'm surprised I never got shot, killed, OD'd. You know what I mean? All these things were just not enough. And it started out being fun at first, and then like all of a sudden people, places, and things started getting in the way of my addiction. And kids, you know what I mean? My kids weren't enough. My mom wasn't enough. My grandparents weren't enough. No human power was able to, and I remember making a bunch of broken promises to my family. You know what I mean? Like, I swear I'm going to treatment on Monday. You know what I mean? And then it got closer to Friday, and I'm like, what's another weekend? You know what I mean? So like, it was just like a nonstop cycle of like broken promises. At the time, I really, really, really meant it. You know what I mean? In my heart, I really meant these things. But once the drugs or alcohol was presented to me, or I was able to get my hands on them, like there was no stopping it. You know what I mean? Like it just had like complete power over me. So, and then like getting sober, and I know like a lot of people come into your guys's into Healing Hearts with like no family. You know what I mean? Broken relationships with their kids, no home, lost their cars, everything. You know what I mean? No family. But like I think like that's another powerful thing. And you guys did mention it. You know what I mean? Like you guys start to be like your own community. And like people finally like get that feeling of love and acceptance again. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like huge for a broken addict. You know what I mean? Like that's like what we search for as addicts, is that acceptance, that love, that just that warm fuzzy feeling. You know what I mean? That drugs always gave us. Like that's what we search for. But like coming into a Healing Hearts, into Healing Hearts, and finding that from other women that feel the same way and we can totally relate. Super powerful, you know what I mean? But like no matter what path anybody takes to get to like to a blessing like Healing Hearts, or you know what I mean, like it's part of the plan. You know what I mean? It's part of the plan, and it's a miracle that you're able to make it there. You know what I mean? And I will truly believe that I was there for a purpose, and my purpose was to help other women like myself and accomplish different things that I set out for myself, and Healing Hearts helped me do that, like the relation back with my family. You know what I mean? Like I just want to tell this story because like it's powerful for me. There was a time in my addiction where like I was living with my grandparents and I was stealing things. You know what I mean? Like blankets, beadwork, jewelry. You know what I mean? And like Healing Hearts giving me that pass, that weekend pass to go back and kind of like show up for my family. I got to stay with my grandparents one night, and we got a spare bedroom. Go ahead, you can sleep in there, And I was like, okay, me and my little dog. I had my little dog with me, and she fixed that bed for me. My grandma fixed that bed, and me and my dog laid down for bed. And I looked around, you know what I mean, and I was surrounded in that spare bedroom. There was like Pendletons, satin star quilts, like beadwork, and like regalia. You know what I mean, and like what a full spin around, you know what I mean? That I was able to build by Healing Hearts giving me that trust of having a past to go back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like that's, I don't know, just being able to do that. And then I don't know, like I would have never been able to do that on my own. And then like I don't know. There's just been so much that was done for me at Healing Hearts that like I'll never forget.
When did Healing Hearts open?
I think it officially opened in November of 21.
21.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to think about the impact it's had in such a short time, and like the going forward. Because when you see someone that struggles like we do, and then they get better, and then they're on their own, and they're thriving in life, and you see that, and like what happened, and then you hear, like you said, that was Hope Manor. Des said that was Healing Hearts for her. It carries so much weight for people without even speaking. Like just seeing what it does to transform someone's life, and you guys are doing that work, and it's gonna mean a lot. It means a lot now, but someday it's gonna mean even more. And it's so cool.
Remember when we were at Inani and they're like, okay, everybody's got to start transitioning to Healing Hearts, and then like I was like, no, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go.
I just didn't want to move.
Yeah, I was scared of change. You know what I mean? Like I finally got comfortable at this sober living. Like, no, I'm not gonna go. They're gonna have to throw me in the car with my bags. Like they forced me out of here. You know what I mean? But like I was so scared because I was scared of change. You know what I mean? I was like the last one at the house over there, like just mad. I was just mad because they were making us go, and then they were like, no, then we got to turn this into a guy's house, and I'm like, oh my god, you know what I mean? We can never have nothing. You know what I mean? It was crazy, but I remember that pretty good. I remember that.
So if you're feeling like Des,
Yeah.
and grandma's telling you gotta go to Healing Hearts,
Man, oh my
time to
god,
go.
Just go with it.
I was so mad though. I was like, we can never have nothing nice. It's always gotta go to the guys. You know what I mean? But like the facility over there was like, I was like, oh okay, I can get used to this. Like this is super nice.
Her own apartment. Like from her sharing a room with like 3 people.
I know, crazy. I can't believe that though.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming in. It's been great. And hopefully we can have you guys on again at some point and share some of the success and the progress that you guys make. And I know we're all rooting for you and cheering you on from here and looking forward to what happens. So I did want to say thank you to anyone who's been listening. Our Spotify has been growing, and we launched on YouTube, and that's been growing. Des launched TikTok, and that's been growing. That just this week, and that's really grown. So please look for us on there. We'll be sharing the stuff, sharing all the links that you guys need to find us. And I think that's all we have.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
In this life we